Hi, folks. Welcome. My name is Lukasz Gornicki, and I'd like to talk to you today on AsyncAPI Conference 2022 about the state of AsyncAPI community. Soon, in actually a few days, it's going to be 6th anniversary of AsyncAPI. So I think it's pretty important after the 6 years to take a look into the past and see where we are at now and what the future brings. But yeah, the most important is to always start presentation with some kick-ass numbers. So I choose some numbers to show you the state of Async API community. So the first one will be the number of downloads of one of our core, the chorus of the core packages at Async API Initiative, which is the package that consists of JSON schemas for async API specification. So it got downloaded 4.6 million times, and it is a number that we track in case of this package since March 2020. So 2.5 years, 4.6 million downloads. And of course, some can argue, oh, it's a fake number. It's a fake number. It's probably bots or so whatever. I cannot disagree more, but that's something not for this presentation. You can ask me questions later, offline, wherever you want. Another number, 1.6 million views on Async API website, tracked not since the beginning of the project, so 6 years ago, but actually 5 years ago, November 2017, 1.6 million views. And the last number I want to show you, website users. So not really page views, because like one user can generate few page views. So do you see this diagram? You know, Boeing servers. Oh my God. Boeing 747, you know, like it's a plane where a bunch of people can get into, and it flies freely to the altitude of Mount Everest. Yeah, I know it from Everest movie. Anyway, that was supposed to be a funny joke, and so you can see it's a starting, curve, like with a plane, right? Makes sense? I hope you can see it. Looks beautiful to me. But the thing is, website users are the same as community. So before I continue, I was thinking that the best always is to agree with a person you communicate with, to agree on a common terms, like a kind of glossary. So maybe we don't have a chance to agree together on one definition. So I'm gonna just share my definition for the sake of this presentation. What do I think the community is? And I'm gonna break one of the most important rules: do not read out slides to your audience. But in this case, I just want to quote the quote from a book, The Art of Community by John Bacon. A community is a collection of people who interact with one another in the same environment. It is not merely the group that generates community, but the interactions within it. And the world interaction is the key here. That's, from my perspective, what community is, and what creates the community. So not really page views or website users, because they don't interact with each other. One person that uses Async API and the second person that uses Async API, when they read website, there is no interaction, at least from my point of view. But I might be wrong. So one thing is this website users numbers, but I was thinking about some different numbers. So one is the Slack numbers, like the amount of users coming to Slack. Because for me, Slack is the place where actually interaction happens, discussion happens, ask for help happens, and other things, really nice things. In a group of people, we interact with each other. And the other place, which is the second one where we interact with the community the most, is GitHub. So might be that these are three different places, but I think you can I mean, do you see the same? Like, you remember Boeing 747? You see some similarities? I mean, coincidence? I don't think so. So, website users, of course, the number is much higher, but with Slack and GitHub contributors, and in case of your thinking like contributors in what way, so I'm just going to tell you that the GitHub contributors shows unique users that interact with us on pull requests or issues. By reporting issues or commenting on an issue, or actually helping with reviewing a PR or creating a PR, etc. So you can see a similarity that high number of website users always reflect a bit the users that then later on interact with us. Now, what I want to make sure is that you don't think that, okay, so if we invest enough in website viewers, then we will automatically get community interactions. No, I don't think so. I don't believe so. But yeah, I think you're going to understand this data more when we will talk about the history. Fun fact, I was actually love topic of history because I was supposed to be an archaeologist. Like my whole youth, I was always dreaming about being archaeologist, but I was just too lazy to learn enough to go to the proper university. And then I've heard that if I'm lazy, I should go to tech, and that's how I ended up here. But yeah, anyway, history. So the most important event 6 years ago, November 2016. Yeah, you can see the first commit of AsyncAPI spec. And I think something that marks the future of the project and the focus of the project. The same moment, the same date, Fran does not only create a first commit, but also creates a initial Slack workspace where we interact in till this day. 2017, so many months later, after the first commit, some important tool got published that enabled people to actually play with AsyncAPI in a visual way by writing a spec and seeing the docs generated. Editor asyncapi.org. And then November 2017, also something important like website traffic monitoring got also enabled. So some first things happen in the project. AsyncAPI is shaping like, okay, Slack community, but also tools. It's not just a spec. So yeah, the shape happens and it's early stage. So going back to the numbers I was showing at the beginning, you can see it also in the numbers, like not many contributors really, just like 60 people on Slack. It's just going slow as every single project that starts. But then 2018 marks pretty important events. First time some big company admits that they use AsyncAPI. This is the commit from GitHub where someone from Slack published their API for their event architecture. And they admitted that they're using AsyncAPI 1.2, pretty old version. You should not use it. Now, also the same year, August, we have folks like almost the same month. Actually, it was the same month. The founder of Abli and also Michal, who worked at SAP at the time, at the same time, they went to Slack and said, hey, folks, like it's an amazing project. We want to help. And we want to donate also some existing project. So you can see that the community of users, also big tech, is growing 2 years after the launch, actually 1.5 years, I would say. Something that happens in January 2019, it's actually a screenshot of my tweet. That actually happened in December, but yeah, in corporations, things move slow. But that's a story for a different day. Most important, 2018 is the year where we also had a first pretty big project donated from an external contributors into AsyncAPI initiative, which was the AsyncAPI React component. And you can see the same numbers again, comparing website, but also Slack and GitHub interactions. Huge amount of growth on the traffic on the website, and also pretty good increase of the interactions with the community. And seeing these numbers, Fran decides to quit New Relic. Like, come on, like these numbers, it indicates the project is pretty important. To be honest, I don't think he had access to all this data, and he probably made a decision basing on the data you feel. You don't see the data, you did not measure, but you feel that your mailbox is getting full of notifications. You're getting a lot of DMs, a lot of discussions, and you have less time to do your work because so many people are really interested with the project, and you have to keep up with your daily job. So that's why Fran probably decided, like, yeah, it's a good moment to quit. And already the same at the beginning of the year, 2019, he starts doing a public meetings. I know he also attends many conferences to talk about AsyncAPI. And pretty important, 2019 is that in March, we have first big platinum sponsor, which is Solace. That is our platinum sponsor till today. So 2019, you can already see if person starts working on a project full-time, commits more to the project, then the audience is growing and the interactions are growing again. And they are starting like, so again, Boeing 747. The pilot is like holding this stuff, not sure what the name is, and he starts putting up, right? Okay, bear with me. 2020, I decide to quit SAP and work on AsyncAPI 100%. And that's also the moment where we, like in my person, we start fully focusing on the community. You can see a screenshot of my first good morning on a general channel, and you can see that I used an appropriate emoji. So I was pretty unexperienced, I would say, 3 years ago, and did not. Well, I wasn't thinking about like how diversity is important. I was not really in like understanding fully what it means, and how like make sure that we're also accepting and welcoming for people with disabilities that have problems, for example, with sight, and they cannot see a flashing emojis. But here we go. We started pushing more for the community. In April 2020, we organized our first big online conference. It was the beginning of pandemia in Europe. Pretty strange times started. And we also in October 2020 started like, okay, we want to have more and more interactions, more and more contributors. So let's try to like invite also people that are new to open source. Let's attend our first event, which was Hacktoberfest, and see if we can also make sure that AsyncAPI welcomes anyone, not just people from some corporations. And important, December 2020 was where I and Fran and others, we did not have to worry about money anymore. Like before, we got paid by some contracts or open collective donations. And we were always worried, like how much, like how long we can live like this, like if we have enough money really, and how long we can actually get paid for our work. So December 2020 is when we had a partnership with Postman. Postman hired few of us, assuring that we will still work 100% of our time on AsyncAPI, which I think we proved pretty well over last years. And it also marked a pretty important change for 2021. In a sec, I'm going to talk about it. But for now, let's talk about the numbers again. You see, so more people working on the project, more people talking about the project, the conference itself as well. Huge peak on the visits on the website. Much more contributors by involving more members of the community to interact with us, and also much bigger presence of people in Slack. The history marks an important mark in 2021. So because of us, a few of us joining Postman, we wanted to make sure that people know that Postman did not acquire AsyncAPI. So we talked with Linux Foundation that accepted AsyncAPI as a project on Linux Foundation to prove that anyone can use AsyncAPI, that it's really community-owned project where IP of the project belongs to the foundation, not any company. So that's important because that's the moment where we started thinking about open governance, something that I don't think we would do in 2021, like looking at the back on different priorities we had. If we wouldn't have the situation that Postman came in with the partnership, and we wouldn't have this internal pressure that okay, we need to prove the community that we have an open governance model, I don't think we would do it in March 2021. But we did it. We set up a really pretty democratic approach for technical steering committee, and ended up 2021 with 24 members in technical steering committee, of course, doing conference and other stuff that we started last year as well. So 2021 ended, and that's where the pilot halts and pulls as slow as possible. Like, we're flying super top. It's not a rocket because we're not going to the moon, although I have a feeling NASA is using AsyncAPI, but that's, again, different topic. Look on Slack and GitHub contributions. Pretty high numbers again, like we're doubling. And I think we're doubling not only because we're getting more website users, even though the lines are pretty similar. It's also because like the whole community of people, like especially the ones on Slack, interact with each other a lot and enable others to contribute and like actually treat community as it's the most important in the project. Now, 2022, we are so advanced that we already started our own mentorship. So we take part in different mentorship programs, Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Docs, and others. We enable project to accept also people that are still in their universities. They're pretty new to open source, but we are like, hell, like, why not doing our own mentorship? And October, so like now, we can say that we have contributors from big corporations like IBM, Salesforce, Google. We have over 60 repositories in our Slack, in our GitHub. We have 35 TSC members and approximately 10 individual contributors. I think there are few TSC members that openly say that they are affiliated with some company. But from discussions, like offline discussions, I know that they are actually contributing in their spare time and actually contributing because they like the project and not because their company is paying them to do it. Their companies are actually not paying them to work on AsyncAPI. So I think that 10 is even is low. I mean, it's actually higher, which is awesome. We have around 80K on Open Collective, so we have secured budget that we can invest in the project. We started our ambassador program last month. We already have 3 ambassadors, and we hope to expand soon. And we kicked off the work on asyncapi.com/community website, where like we have one single place where the community can go and find every single information, like how to interact, where, and how to contribute, like everything, like a Bible for the community. Even though I think that we're doing good by working without it. Now, remember the numbers, how high they go. We need a place where community can go and find any information, because us answering on Slack every day, sometimes the same answer, we need to scale it. We need a place where we can actually find everyone and appreciate everyone. And the community now, what is the community now? So, when it started, how it went. And I think we managed to create a pretty diverse community. So we have a lot of individual and also company sponsored members, a lot of contributors. Something super important and what I'm proud of is that like 10% of maintainers at AsyncAPI are women, and 22% of speakers at this conference are women. And you can say like, if you follow the numbers, like the last number I checked was in one of the articles, they were talking about that actually among tech, in tech, 25% of tech is women. So we can say like, okay, so if 25% in tech are women, then we have lower numbers and we're not doing well. But the thing is that open source is different. So actually, one article that I found says that only 6% of open source contributors are women. And now these numbers that I shared above, they sound different. I'm personally super proud of this community that we managed to reach these numbers. Would like to thank all the people that actually contribute to it. And something important, it doesn't mean we're awesome. I think that if we manage to reach such numbers in such a short time, I think we can do better, and not show only that individual contributors are valued the same as company-sponsored contributors, but we can also show that, like in open source, you can actually have much higher representation of women in tech. So that's something to look at, put even more effort, and make it like kick-ass, really. And last but not least, like we are really diverse community. Like we have folks from Nigeria, India, Americas, like almost like, okay, I'm not going to say every country in Europe, but like a lot of countries in Europe have people as maintainers in the project. Now we also are super transparent, like something that is in the heart of our founding charter in Linux Foundation. Like even this year, just this year, we had like over 70 different meetings, public meetings, live stream meetings, where we were discussing different topics around the AsyncAPI initiative. We make no decisions on the meetings. Sometimes we have private meetings, especially with mentees that just joined the project and they don't feel comfortable having public meetings because they have their imposter syndromes and other things that block them from public presence. And we don't believe that you should just pick up people and throw them into the river to teach them swimming this way. This is a slow process. But the important stuff is that even if we talk about something private, we always update GitHub issues or GitHub pull requests. And even if someone will write to you that a decision was made on the meeting, if somebody did not attend the meeting, you can openly say you don't agree because decisions are not made on the meetings. Now, I think we have managed to have pretty welcoming community. These are just few examples of people sharing and proofs that we can see that like people come ask like, hey, I need Java mentor. Here you go. Like, hey, I need some onboarding. Can I get help? Yeah, I mean, just share what you know, what you'd like to learn, and we can guide you. We can be your guide in this dark place with so many repositories, which are not easy to digest at first sight. So that's all about the past, the present, and the future. It's not that easy. We still have to continue and do the hard work, not only with women representation in tech, but we have to continue many different initiatives. We started the conference. It has to happen every year. The participation in different initiatives to onboard different contributors, it has to happen. We have to run it. We have to keep it going because we see that this brings a lot of great people into the project. So the future, even though the numbers are great, I'd like to make it super clear. I don't believe that it's enough to have marketing put on the website, increase the amount of people coming to the website, and automatically it will convert into the community interactions. If you don't make sure that the community is capable of interactions in a healthy environment, I don't believe you can actually keep up going well with the project. So yeah, no resting, get on tractor and do the work. Now, the most important from my perspective next step is me stepping down from the role of community manager and having someone new to do it. Stepping down, not leaving the project. So I simply believe that in February next year, it's my third year as a community manager here in the project. And I think it's maximum. It's really enough. Um, like in politics, I believe that also in with such important roles, people should not spend too much time in these positions, because over time you get biased. I get biased. I have my issues with some platforms. I hate Twitter, and I know that I was always ignoring it as a tool to interact with the community because I simply don't believe it can have a good enable good interactions. But yeah, it's a different topic. What I'm saying is that we need to hire someone who will just continue what we're doing and also do different things. How we do it, I have no idea. Maybe we will hire someone through Open Collective donations. Maybe we should hire someone from Linux Foundation, or maybe we should simply do what we did now. Like I was at the beginning doing it independently. Then I got affiliated with Postman, and even though I can say I'm not really Postman is not telling me what to do, I can swear that it's not happening. But like people that don't know me do not necessarily have to trust me. And I think that we really have to make sure that like if we do not want to hire someone through Open Collective or like someone from the Linux Foundation, we should have a clear rule that community manager should be a rotating rule. Maybe IBM, Solas, and other Platinum sponsors or other companies, they can delegate someone for 1 year on AsyncAPI, for example, to do the community management. Let's see. This is actually a kickoff of a discussion I want to start on our GitHub community discussions. We need to identify what would be a key responsibilities of such person, like making sure that conference happens, making sure that we'll take part in some initiatives, etc. Let's identify it. Let's make sure that we put some requirements on the role, what this person in this role should identify. Maybe identify if we are doing something very wrong with Twitter and we actually can do something better with Twitter. Again, I don't think we should and can, but that's my opinion. I'm biased. So yeah, this shit has to be done before the 1st of February 2022. I hope that I can just leave the driving wheel of building the community here, set the goals for next year, last time, this year, and just sit in the passenger side. So I don't want to leave the project, just to make it clear. I don't want to go away from the community. No way. That's what I love the most. But I just don't want to be 4th year in a row a person that is identified with the community. I think the healthiest for the state of this community is if the face will change and will be driven by somebody else. And let's together decide how we're going to do it. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a huge fun for me to share all this data and insights into the history. I really do believe we're doing awesome here in this project. And I can't wait how we will do next year. Thanks. Arrivederci.